Stabbed at my stinging eyes, reeling in the heat, Meaursault squeezed the revolver, and the trigger gave. The Stranger by Albert Camus was one of the most impactful books ever written in the modern world, at least when it comes to the philosophical section. Translated into over 60 languages and sold more than 6 million copies all over the world. A gripping existential novel written and published in the middle of World War II that delves into the life of Meaursault, the protagonist, an emotionally detached man from society. The Stranger, or The Outsider in British translation, is the story of a man, middle-class workman by the name of Meaursault, a French settled Algerian man, and just in the few first paragraphs of the novella, you can say that he is detached, somehow indifferent to the world, and it all begins with his mother's death. Quote, "Maman died today, or yesterday maybe, I don't know. I got a telegram from the home, mother deceased, funeral tomorrow, faithfully yours. That doesn't mean anything, maybe it was yesterday." Meaursault, who eventually attends his mother's funeral, but, as we noticed, shows a great lack of grief, shows no emotions at all, has no effect on him. As the narrative progresses, significant life events occur, leading him to ultimately kill an Arab guy on a beach in what appears to be a random act. Then Meaursault's trial brings to light culture conventions and, most importantly, the moral standards that were placed upon him. The fact that the book is set in Algiers, the capital city of Algeria, emphasizes how important the sun is to the plot. The climate of Algeria is typically dry, arid, and perpetually hot. Meaursault is constantly met with the sun and the heat. He sometimes likes the sun, and other times he avoids it. It's as if everything in his living universe is either black or white, light or dark. Therefore, to draw attention to two key themes, the sun is used as a large metaphor: clarity and revelation. The sun represents Meaursault's internal struggles and larger problems, as well as his introspection. This makes sense since the sun appears when Meaursault is experiencing discomfort and distress, which causes him to feel dizzy, both physically and psychologically. On the day of his mother's burial, he experiences oppressive heat, as well as on the day he shoots the Arab. He himself connects these 2 days by comparing their heat. Or during his trial in court, which finally represents his newfound grasp of the truth and his own existence. In the second point, freedom. Quote, "I felt as though I were on the brink of understanding something important that had been eluding me for a long time. I could feel it in the air, in the breeze, in the silence, in the stars that were beginning to shine." For Meaursault, the sun may also be a symbol of freedom. He imagines embracing the gentle indifference of the world, under the sun, while he waits inside the prison for his execution. Although accepting the word's apathy can be viewed as a type of release, as he embraces his true nature and discovers a sense of calm amidst the chaos surrounding him. Quote, "None of my friends were very close to me. I didn't think much of them. Besides, I was in a hurry to find the exit." In The Stranger, Albert Camus skillfully portrays the themes of loneliness and alienation through Meaursault's experiences and interactions. Through Meaursault's perspective, the novel invites readers to contemplate the impact of societal expectations, existential absurdity, and individual choices on one's sense of isolation and estrangement from the world. The prosecutor and Meaursault's lawyer both offer explanations for Meaursault's crime that are based on logic, reason, and the concept of cause and effect. Yet these explanations have no basis in fact and serve only as attempts to diffuse the frightening idea that the universe is irrational. The entire trial is therefore an example of absurdity, an instance of humankind's futile attempt to impose rationality on an irrational universe. Quote, I shivered with the slight chill from the stream and felt awkward and a little sad. Meaursault's inability to effectively communicate his thoughts and emotions further intensifies his isolation. He struggles to express himself, and this linguistic barrier isolates him from those who try to understand him, like his lawyer. Meaursault's narration also illustrates his internal thoughts, highlighting the stark contrast between his inner world and the outer world's perception of him. Nature and isolation. The natural elements in the novel, such as the scorching sun, the beach, and the sea, mirror Meaursault's emotional state. The oppressive heat of the sun intensifies his feelings of isolation and contributes to his detachment from his surroundings. The beach, a current setting, symbolizes his separation from conventional life and his quest for individuality. Like all people, Meaursault has been born, will die, and will have no further importance. Quote, I had only to wish that there be a large crowd of spectators the day of my execution, and that they greet me with cries of hate. Paradoxically, only after Meaursault reaches this seemingly dismal realization is he able to attain happiness. When he fully comes to terms with the inevitability of death, he understands that it does not matter whether he dies by execution or lives to die a natural death at an old age. How could I have failed to see, says Meaursault, that nothing was more important than an execution, and that it was even, in a way, the only really interesting thing for a man. This understanding enables Meaursault to put aside his fantasies of escaping execution by filling a successful legal appeal, but he had a glimpse of fractional enlightenment and realized that these illusory hopes, which had previously preoccupied his mind, will do little more than creating him a false sense that death is avoidable. Therefore, Meaursault sees that his hope for a sustained life has been a burden. His liberation from this false hope means he is free to live life for what it is and to make the most of his remaining days. Quote, the absurd man is the man who does not hesitate to draw the inevitable conclusions from a fundamental absurdity. Jean-Paul Sartre, an existential French author and a friend of Camus, wrote a few papers as an explanation of The Stranger, and I wanted to include this last bullet point to just raise philosophically another perspective towards the book. The Stranger is not an explanatory book. The absurd man does not explain, he describes. It is not a book that proves anything. Thus, the shock you felt when you opened the book and read, I thought that here was another Sunday over with, that Mama was buried now, that I would go back to work again, and that, on the whole, nothing had changed. Was deliberate. At that very moment, it was the result of your first encounter with the absurd, but you probably hoped that as you progressed in reading, your uneasiness would fade away and that everything would be slowly clarified, given a reasonable justification and explained. Nonetheless, your hopes were disappointed. In the myth of Sisyphus, Camus teaches us how to accept the story. He is not concerned with justifying what is eventually wrong. He is merely presenting something. Instead, we discover the novel of absurdity's theory inside. Although it has only one theme, the absurdity of human existence, it is not a book with a message, nor does it result from a satisfied way of thinking that seeks to offer formal arguments. Rather, it is the result of limited, rebellious, and mortal thinking. But in order to understand this, we have to take a little plunge into Albert Camus' art style. J.P.Sartre made a wonderful analysis of it. It goes, Camus does not require the attentive solicitude that writers who have sacrificed their lives to art demand of the reader. The stranger, magnificently, is a leaf from his life. And since the most absurd life is that which is most sterile, his novel aims at being magnificently sterile. Art is an act of a necessary generosity. We need not be over-disturbed by this. I find, hidden beneath Camus' paradoxes, some of Kant's wise observations of the endless end of the beautiful. And that is how we must accept it, as a brief communion between two men, the author and the reader, beyond reason, in the realm of the absurd. Thank you for watching this video, and see you in the next one.